Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The Modern Warfare 2 beta is officially out now on PlayStation, and with it we have honestly the most complicated / confusing creative class and gunsmith system to date. And today I wanted to basically walk you guys through the entire creative class, what you need to know as you progress weapon levels, your overall rank, all sorts of stuff like that, because like I said, it's very confusing. For one, most of the time you end up on, if I were to go back to this screen, you end up here. If you want to go to your creative class, it's not like it's just here. You have all the other normal stuff. You can't click L2 to get to it. You got to click start, go to home, and then from here you have your tab with your weapons, your operators, everything like that in the store, which also is broken right now. So we got all that going on. It's weird how this sort of HUD works and everything, but when it comes to your actual creative class or your loadout, we got everything for you. So I'm currently level 12. I've gone through, I've maxed out several different variations of the M4, which for the beta, it basically seems like the only weapons you can fully use are M4 blueprints. Now, yes, you could use this AK-74 variant that's here. However, it won't level up for some reason. Even if you have it unlocked, which as you guys can see, I do, won't level up. There's a default class that has some attachments, so if you want to use it, you could use that, but for weapon levels, that won't work. Infinity Ward did tweet out saying that the M4, the M16, the Lockman 5.56, the FFS Hurricane, which is the SMG of the M4, the Lockman Sub, which I believe is the MP5, the Lockman 7.62, the FTAC Recon, the LMS, the RAP H, and then also the 5.56 Icarus were all gunsmithable. But clearly you guys can see here I have the Lockman 5.56 and it's locked and I can't gunsmith it. But we got the M16, we got the M4, obviously. We go to battle rifles, we have the FTAC Recon, which is another M4 variant here. We got the SMGs, Lockman Sub, clearly locked. We got the Hurricane though, which is M4 variant. Shotguns, there is a unique one here that surprisingly is not an M4 variant. LMGs, the Icarus is also an M4 variant. The RAP here, clearly locked, even though they said it shouldn't be. Marksman rifles, LMS, Lockwood, MK2, both locked. Unfortunately, right now, Sniper also locked for me personally. But like I said, everything is essentially an M4 family tree weapon here. So let's, for instance, put on our base M4. And I do have the Vault Edition, so I have the Cinder M4, which gives me some additional attachments. But if I go through, this is what your basic class setup is going to look like when you first start. Now, you guys can see here, I've got 4 different custom loadouts just made to mess around with things. I had to make these, additionally by going through the plus here, and that adds on new ones, right? Or you can just copy ones over. But every single class setup has your unique primary, secondary. That's no different from before. Same deal with tacticals and lethals. Your perks, though, are brand new, and sort of similar to, I believe, Cold War, you have individual field upgrades for each class. Now, you can do 2 eventually in the full game, it looks like, but for now, you are stuck with just 1 field upgrade. Depending on what level you are, you can get different options here. Things like the deployable cover, tac inserts, trophy systems. Deddy is one as well that's unlocked at level 30, so that'll be next weekend in the beta. You got plenty of options here. You can get a loadout drop even that, gives you limited uses with a crate, which is pretty interesting. I've been going for Muni just because I'm going for streaks and whatnot, but that is individual to every class setup. So if you want, a more relaxed class setup that has something like a Muni so that you can constantly have ammo without having to worry about replenishing, that would work well. If you wanted something that was more defensive and so you could have a deployable cover, you can switch that to individual classes, which is pretty nice. Also, real quick, as we're going through this, just a reminder, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that sub button. We're on the road to 1 million, and every day I got you guys covered with everything going on between Warzone 2, MW2, Call of Duty in general. You're gonna find the latest news, updates, tips, loadouts, all that right here. And also right now, all weekend long, COD Immortal gets you 30% off on your G Fuel. So if you want to grab anything at all from the G Fuel site, best time to do so. Stock up in time for the crossplay beta next weekend. Throw in COD Immortal at checkout. Take advantage of that increased discount. Now, the perks are something that I think most players will probably be confused about because it is a brand new system. Now, you can see here, you can create your own perk packages by clicking on this plus icon, which we'll do in just a moment. But there are some basic ones here that have default perks equipped. So for Assault, you get Overkill and Scavenger, and then your bonus perk, you get 4 minutes into a match. It's also performance dependent, so you can get it faster than in those 4 minutes if you're doing really well. Then your ultimate perk, which is actually behind the face cam here, if I go ahead and hide that, in this case, it's Hardline. You'd get that 8 minutes into a match, and again, if you are performing well, you can get that in less than 8 minutes, and that changes depending on which class you want. For Phantom, Battle of Hardened Double Time, Cold-Blooded Ghost, changes all throughout. Now, some players are not going to like the combinations that they have for the base perks here, so that's where you'd go to your own custom ones. So for instance, this was my mess around one with perk package 1, and then my perk package 2 is the one that I personally like using. So if I go ahead and equip that, I can go to the options here and I can edit the perks, and this is where you can completely customize it to what you want. For what it's worth, I think this is the best perk setup that I've experimented with personally. And for perk 1, you got all these options to choose from. Extra tactical, which is pretty self-explanatory. Strong arm, which shows you exactly your trajectory for throwing equipment. Tracker shows footsteps. EOD protects against obviously explosives. Scavenger refills ammo as you run across things. Battle hardened, reduced effects of stuns, EMPs. Could be pretty useful because stuns and flashes are ridiculous right now. Double time doubles the duration of tac sprint, which is super valuable right now because obviously with no slide cancel, you can't reset your tac sprint. So double time, incredibly useful. Then overkill if you want to carry 2 primary weapons. So for instance, I like double time and I like scavenger, so I can go on longer streaks. Also, I just realized if I hover over scavenger and battle hardened, it says the same thing for some reason. But anyways, I like double time because of that double tac sprint duration, and then scavenger to pick things up. But let's say I wanted to use you know, double time and battle hardened instead. You could just go through and switch that and it'll save with your perk package, right? Double time battle hardened now good there. If I go in and edit it, can do that just on the fly, and you can save these packages whenever you want to create a new one. And then for perk 2, you can actually go through and edit these as well. Go through into perk 2. Focus, better flinch resistance is pretty solid. Quick fix I think is really solid because the TTK is so fast. Whenever you end up getting a kill, that actually triggers regen, which can save your life. Fast hands is basically amped from Warzone and MW 2019. Cold-blooded, obviously self-explanatory. Spotter, same deal. Resupply is restock, essentially refills your nades. So you can choose whatever one you want here. Again, I like quick fix. And then there's also perk 3 as well, which is the most advanced perks basically. So you got things like high alert, shows you if enemies are looking at you that don't have cold-blooded. Ghost keeps you off the radar. And from my understanding, this does actually work when you're standing still. Unfortunately, not a huge fan of that. Hardline reduces the streak cost. Overclock actually gives you an additional field upgrade charge, and also the spawn rate or the increase rate is faster. Survivor is essentially last stand, but it's really not all that powerful. Bird's Eye gives you a zoomed out mini map, and it basically gives you like a mini advanced UAV from time to time once you end up earning this. When you get kills, there's pings for stuff. I think that's super useful for information because the default minimap is kind of sucky and doesn't show red dots, so that's my alternative there. And that's why I run those perks that I do. It works really well for my playstyle, but that's how you mess around with your perks. If you want, go in, create a brand new package, use whatever you want. If I want the battle hardened and double time one, I can throw on quick fix, I can throw on Bird's Eye, and then you guys can see here, I got perk package 3. I can just easily go ahead and equip that. Lethals and tacticals, self-explanatory, right? We don't really have to go in depth here. You just choose whatever one you're using. That's the same as before. Secondaries, there's really only one you can use as of the moment, unless you hit rank 15, then you get the full auto pistol blueprint. But then we get to the primaries, and this is where things again are very confusing. So you want to select your gun here. Like I said, we're going to go for the base M4, so we equip that. You can go into the Gunsmith now though, and also actually quick side note, if I were to select this, you can see I can equip the base one by pressing square or the armory. If you pre-ordered the Vault Edition, you'll have access to the Cinder M4, which obviously gives you the cool look. You can select that from there if you want, but just for the base one, we go into the Gunsmith, we are met with this screen here, and keep in mind you only have 5 attachments. Now, as you guys saw, we had the various different M4 variants, the family trees if you will, on the menu. You can just quickly swap to them here if you want. The FTAC Recon's the battle rifle, the Icarus is the LMG, the M16's the burst rifle, Hurricane's the SMG. That's just quickly changing them. They're all still the same weapon, and that's basically leveling these different ones up is how you unlock the total attachments for these. Because you'll notice, because I do have the Vault Edition, I have various attachments already unlocked from this, but then you got things like all these other optics here that are locked. Some attachments will only be unlocked by using certain receivers or certain weapons in your family tree that we can see here on the progression tab. So for instance, I have most of these leveled up minus the Icarus, so I should have basically all the attachments if I didn't have the Vault Edition, which obviously gave me the attachments right away. So that's basically how you'd unlock certain attachments. Not every gun is going to give you every single attachment. You basically, if you want a full build that has every attachment possible, you'll have to level all the weapons in that family tree. But then the class setup itself is pretty similar to what we saw before. So for instance, here on the base M4, barrels to choose from, each have different pros and cons. Obviously you can see them there. Unfortunately, they're not specific numbers, but there will be the firing range where we can test things out. But this one, for instance, the Carbine Shroud, better control, better velocity, pretty solid. If you wanted a faster one, the Tempest Firebrand, better ADS, better movement speed, better hip fire accuracy as well. If you wanted something that is better for range and hip fire and velocity, you'd have the 419. You could go for an H4 barrel, better ADS, better hip fire. So it just depends on what you want to build out here. Better hip fire, better control, better ADS on here. Just paying attention to the pros and cons here will be your best bet. And then you can just go through and equip whichever one you're looking for. Again, if you have the Vault Edition, you can actually throw on the Cinder variant, which gives you the cool looking like red and carbon blueprint of that. If you were to go and just use the base one, it just look pretty standard, right? So nothing too crazy there. And that's basically the same gunsmith customization that we had before. So we can go ahead, we can throw on our optic. For instance, this one is like a hollow sight. Unfortunately, I don't see anywhere to actually end up changing the reticles of anything. You can put the skin on, but at least in the beta here, there's decals, there's stickers you can use, camos eventually, but there's nowhere to actually change the reticle of that for now. Hopefully that's a thing in the full game. I'd probably throw on an underbarrel in this case too. For instance, the pineapple vertical ends up giving you better control, so that's nice and ideal. We'll throw that one on. I'd like a rear grip on here too for some better you know, movement speed and whatnot. If we want to go for that, we could go for something like the X10. This is basically the stippy grippy. If you wanted control, you could go for something like the Sakin ZX grip, which is obviously better control, worse stability. So just comes down to what you want there. And then, you know, maybe you want to stock on there too. There's plenty of options for that. Aggressive movement with no stock. You could use the Ravage for better sprint speed, better ADS. You could use something like the Factory for better control. Pretty self-explanatory when it comes to the attachments themselves. How you actually get them though is probably the more confusing part that most players will look at and be a little bit overwhelmed by. For whatever reason, figuring out where to get the attachments is harder than figuring out which ones work well, right? So that's essentially what you want to be looking for. Now obviously you have other options too, like for instance, I'm currently you know, maxed on the M16, so if I were to go in here, I'd have these specific attachments on the M16, still using the same barrel that works between the M4 and the M16, and I like that one. You could use that between both. Same deal with the optic as well. If I were to go over to maybe the SMG one though, if I were to drop this M4, go into my SMGs, the Hurricane obviously we saw as the receiver, and actually even you could go in, choose the base M4, right? Go to Gunsmith, receiver. Right here, I can go to the Hurricane and it changes it to the SMG right away. And you'll notice the barrels are now different. This one, for instance, has a built-in suppressor. You could go ahead, throw that on, and you get that by unlocking it and leveling up this weapon. So hopefully this explains things a little bit better because it is a very confusing system between the perks being new and this gunsmith system being a little bit more complex and detailed than what we've seen before. But that's essentially the core things you need to know. If you have more questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to drop a like on the video as well if it helped you guys out. And if you are new to the channel, feel free to hit that sub button, turn on those post notifications, because every single day I got you covered with all things going on in the world of Call of Duty. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.